Somewhere right now, someone your exact age, with your exact excuses, is doing the thing you keep postponing. Not because they're smarter. Not because life handed them anything easier. Because they understood something you haven't let yourself believe yet, that the version of you sitting comfortable today is quietly building the cage the future version of you will wake up inside. You feel it. That low hum of unease when you scroll past another Sunday without touching the thing you said mattered. That's not laziness talking. That's your own future, knocking. There's a particular kind of tiredness that has nothing to do with sleep. It's the tiredness of almost. Almost started the business. Almost finished the course. Almost showed up for the version of yourself you keep sketching out in your head but never actually build. You tell yourself you'll begin when things settle down, when the timing improves, when motivation finally arrives like a scheduled delivery. It never arrives on schedule. It never has. What you're really negotiating with isn't time. It's discomfort. Effort today means tension today, sore muscles, awkward conversations, unfamiliar failure, the particular sting of being a beginner again. And your mind, wired for survival rather than growth, will always vote for comfort unless you override it on purpose. Here's the part nobody explains clearly enough: comfort doesn't disappear when you avoid effort. It just changes address. It moves into your future and waits there, except now it's wearing a different name: regret, limitation, dependency, the slow erosion of options. Every day you trade effort for ease is a day you're borrowing freedom from someone who hasn't been born yet. That someone is you, 6 months from now, staring at the same walls, wondering why nothing changed. This isn't about hustle for its own sake. It's about understanding a debt most people never see being created. Picture two versions of the same week. In one, a man wakes early, uncomfortable, and does the hard training session anyway, not because he enjoys it, but because he's paying something forward. In the other version of that same week, a different man sleeps in, tells himself Monday will be different, and feels a small flicker of relief followed by a smaller, quieter shame he doesn't examine too closely. 6 months pass. Nothing dramatic happens in either timeline. That's the trap: the cost of avoided effort never announces itself. There's no alarm, no invoice, no single moment where the bill arrives. It simply accumulates, silently, the way rust accumulates on something left out in the weather. Then one ordinary Tuesday, the first man finds a strength in his body he didn't consciously build, because it was built for him, in installments, by 100 earlier decisions he barely remembers making. The second man finds a stiffness he can't quite explain, a body and a life that both feel a size too small. Effort compounds. So does its absence. This is the part that discipline actually protects: not your productivity, not your image, but your future range of motion. Physically, mentally, financially. Every rep you skip, every hard conversation you avoid, every skill you postpone learning is a door you're quietly closing on a version of yourself who hasn't arrived yet but will need that door open. Freedom isn't the absence of effort. Freedom is what effort, repeated without applause, eventually purchases. Think about what a locked door actually represents. It's not cruelty. It's consequence, made visible. And most people are building locked doors for their future selves without realizing that's what today's small avoidances actually construct. Consider a woman who wants, more than almost anything, to leave a job that's slowly hollowing her out. She has an idea, a real one, that could become something of her own. But building it requires 2 hours a night she'd rather spend recovering from a day that already took too much from her. So she tells herself, not tonight. Just tonight, I'll rest. One night of rest is wisdom. It's not the enemy here. But watch what happens when just tonight becomes the operating system of an entire year. The idea doesn't die in one dramatic moment. It starves slowly, one skipped evening at a time, until 18 months later she's still in the same chair, except now carrying the added weight of knowing she let it go without ever officially deciding to. That's the cruelest version of self-betrayal, the kind that never asks permission, that happens by default rather than by choice. Discipline is simply the practice of making the decision on purpose, instead of letting exhaustion make it for you by accident. It's choosing, deliberately, which door stays open. You don't need to build the whole structure tonight. You need to lay one more brick than you feel like laying. That's the entire secret, and it's disappointingly unglamorous, which is exactly why most people won't do it. There's a story people tell themselves that sounds responsible but is actually a trap: I'm just being realistic. Realism, used honestly, is a tool. Used as an excuse, it's a coffin you build for your own potential and then decorate with logic so it looks respectable. Picture a young man who wants to change his financial situation. He looks at his current numbers, calls himself realistic, and concludes that ambition isn't for people like him. What he's actually doing is measuring his future by his present, as if the person he could become in 3 years of relentless, unglamorous effort is somehow bound by the limitations of the person he is today, sitting there, untrained and unstarted. That's not realism. That's a failure of imagination wearing realism's coat. Every skill you now consider basic, reading, walking, holding a conversation, was once beyond you completely. You became capable through nothing more mystical than repeated, uncomfortable attempts across time. The financial freedom you want, the body you want, the calm mind you want, none of them are handed out based on your current comfort level. They're constructed, piece by piece, by someone willing to be bad at something long enough to eventually become good at it. Realistic isn't a ceiling. It's a starting elevation. Where you go from there depends entirely on whether you're willing to keep climbing after the view stops being exciting. Most people misunderstand what future freedom actually feels like from the inside, in the moment it's being built. It doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like Tuesday. It feels like getting up when the room is still dark and your body is arguing with you. It feels like sending the email you're scared will be ignored. It feels like sitting with a textbook when a screen is calling you somewhere easier. Freedom, when it's actually under construction, is almost indistinguishable from discomfort. That's precisely why so many people abandon the process. They're waiting to feel the reward while they're still doing the labor, and when the labor doesn't reward them instantly, they assume they've chosen the wrong path. You haven't chosen the wrong path. You've simply arrived at the part of every worthwhile path that refuses to be skipped. Picture a craftsman early in his training, hands blistered, work uneven, nowhere close to mastery. If you judged his future by that single afternoon, you'd tell him to quit. But zoom out 5 years, and those same unremarkable afternoons, stacked one on top of another without fanfare, are exactly what built the steady hands he now takes for granted. You are not behind. You are simply standing inside the unglamorous middle, the part that never gets filmed, the part that has no highlight reel because nothing dramatic is supposed to happen there. Showing up anyway, especially when nothing seems to be happening, is the entire mechanism by which today's discomfort becomes tomorrow's freedom. There's a quieter kind of freedom people rarely mention, and it might be the most important one. It's not the freedom to buy things or escape a job you dislike. It's the freedom to trust yourself. To make a promise to yourself and watch yourself keep it, over and over, until your own word starts to mean something again.